Hi everyone, it's Tuesday and I'm actually doing my video on time, which is good. Hopefully I'll continue to do that. I'm Annie, if you forgot or don't know me, and today I'm going to be sharing hopefully a concise version of my history of chronic illness and what my journey has been so far. So my story kind of starts more or less when I was 15, which was just over 14 years ago, when in the middle of the summer I was working at a Girl Scout camp, and so I was outside all the time, and in July I came down with what we thought was just the flu. No one around me was sick, but I had the flu, and that was what everyone thought it was, and I recovered from it. And then that fall, which was the fall of my sophomore year of high school, I thankfully was homeschooled at the time. I had been homeschooled when I was younger, and I decided to go back to homeschooling for my sophomore year. And then in October of that year, I started having really progressively more and more severe symptoms. They mainly started as migraines and fatigue and like cognitive issues and stuff like that. And it only took, so I was seeing a chiropractor at the time who brought up the possibility of it being Lyme disease. And so in December, at the end of December of that year, I saw a Lyme doctor who diagnosed me clinically with Lyme disease and started me on treatment. Now, he didn't address or test for or evaluate for co-infections. And I got somewhat better on the treatment that I was on, but I only got better kind of to a point and plateaued, and there wasn't a lot of options that he gave to me at that point. So I decided to go off treatment and managed for a couple of years, managed through my junior and senior years of high school, and then when I went off to college, things got worse pretty quickly. The stress of that change kind of brought things out much more than they had been before. So I sought out a new doctor who would hopefully have more options for me. I was put back on oral antibiotics, and then after a period of time, decided that I really needed to pursue IV antibiotics, and the doctor I was seeing at the time wasn't comfortable doing it if I didn't test positive for it because of the issues that can happen with insurance companies not wanting to pay for it and reporting of doctors and stuff like that. So she kind of wanted to protect herself, and so I switched to another doctor who I didn't realize at the time, but he also didn't really do IV antibiotics because of the distance that I was about 4 hours away from him, and so he tried new oral antibiotics, and at that point actually addressed co-infections, and I was diagnosed with Babesia and Bartonella. Bartonella was, I tested positive for it, and Babesia was a clinical diagnosis. And I did treatment for those, although they didn't resolve at that time, and I've done kind of intermittent treatment for both of those up until pretty recently. So after a while, I eventually ended up going to yet another doctor. I don't know how many doctors I've been to in total, but like these are all doctors who actually know about chronic Lyme and stuff. So yeah, so I ended up going to another doctor and getting on IV antibiotics, which helped a lot. I was like basically housebound, not bedbound, but like wasn't able to really go out and do anything when I started the IV antibiotics. And I was on them for 6 months, ended up losing my gallbladder to gallstones for Mircefin, but got quite a bit better with that treatment. When I stopped it, unfortunately, the doctors didn't follow up with oral antibiotics, and it just wasn't handled as well as it could have been, which has been kind of my case with a couple of the doctors that I've seen over the years, that they just really didn't treat with adequate antibiotics and stuff for me. So I ended up going downhill again, and wound up eventually, after a couple of years, going back on IV antibiotics. I had my first port placed in July of 2004, and I started on IV antibiotics, and was put back on Rocephin, and ended up having complications from it, GI complications. We believe that I was probably having sludging in my bile duct, and that if I had stayed on the Rocephin, that eventually I could have formed stones in my bile duct. So I was taken off that, and off treatment for a while until I kind of recovered from those complications, and then started seeing the doctor, who is relatively recent. I saw him up until relatively recently. I think I stopped seeing him maybe a year and a half ago, and was diagnosed with a number of other things, including dysautonomia, which I had a tilt table test for and failed it. And then I was also diagnosed with reactive hypoglycemia and Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Those two are not really major issues for me, and I usually don't even mention them as diagnoses, but I did get them at the same time. And for the dysautonomia, I was started on fluids, IV fluids at that point, after trying a couple of different medications and not responding to them. And the fluids have made a huge difference in my level of function. And initially it was just plain saline, and then eventually vitamins and minerals were added, and then eventually amino acids were added, and so it's kind of been a progression of that treatment. And so that was in 2005. February of 2005, I was diagnosed with the dysautonomia. And I was put back on IV antibiotics, and responded. I think we tried a number of different antibiotics at that point, and I ended up responding really well to one of them. I think it might have been the second or third one we tried, and got quite a bit better with it. It was kind of amazing coming out of the haze that I was in, and actually being able to go out and do things. And there was one trip in particular that I went on with my dad in the fall of 2005, and I had actually bought a used wheelchair, thinking that I wasn't going to really be able to walk around much myself, and I was in pretty bad shape, and I ended up not needing the wheelchair, and it was pretty amazing seeing the difference in my functioning at that point. So that was really good. I eventually, again, so I kind of have things a little bit mixed up in my head about the order of the doctors. I started seeing the doctor who's my current doctor right before I started seeing this other doctor. Not that really makes a huge difference, but it's hard to keep 14 plus years of history straight all the time. So eventually I stopped seeing that doctor and just started seeing the doctor I see currently, because I had been seeing her as a primary care doctor while still seeing the other doctor, and eventually decided that really she was very knowledgeable and capable of handling all of the stuff, and is much, much, much closer to me. So my current doctor, I've been with off and on since 2004, since the spring of 2004. I have been through a lot in the time that I've been seeing her. She's seen me through 2 port infections, having 3 ports placed. No, yeah, 3 ports placed and 3 ports removed. 2 of them were infections. One of them was from recently from blood clots that I had on my left side where the port was. Yeah, I've had a number of complications and just all kinds of stuff that makes my case pretty difficult. The fact that I've been on and off treatment for as long as I have makes it hard to figure out what to try. I've been treated on and off for the co-infections, and they always seem to resurface. So it's just kind of frustrating, and my doctor has been great and really stuck with me through all of the difficulties and everything that I've had, and never really has given up on me, which I've gotten to that point with other doctors. So it's just really nice to have someone who is who I really feel is fighting to figure things out for me. Currently, I'm not on any treatment for Lyme disease or co-infections. I've been off treatment for those since the end of July. End of June, sorry, when I had my last port infection, and we decided after I was done with the antibiotics for that to just take a break. So I'm not on Lyme treatment right now. I still am on IV fluids and amino acids and vitamins and minerals for the dysautonomia and the gastroparesis. Oh, so I was diagnosed with gastroparesis. I left that part out. I was diagnosed with gastroparesis in 2006, when I had basically my whole GI system just shut down, and I had a really, really hard time eating for about 4 months until I was diagnosed and started on treatment. So that's another complicating factor in my case, which I know there's a lot of other people with Lyme who have dysautonomia, who have gastroparesis, who have the same issues that I have, and my doctor is always looking for possible treatments that other doctors have tried for people who are similar to me. So yeah, so that kind of brings it up to now. I feel like this was not the most coherent history, but with so much stuff that has happened, I didn't want to go into a lot of detail about each little thing. The end of December this year will be 14 years since I was diagnosed. The doctors think that I have probably actually had Lyme for longer than that. That when I got sick in the summer of 1997 when I was 15, that was a reinfection, and that I have actually had it probably back at least until I was 8. So yeah. So I've been fighting it for quite a while. So that's pretty much it. I hope I didn't leave anything significant out. I think I got all of my diagnoses in there, and somewhat in the right order. And yeah, I'm glad that this group, this collab channel is really starting to go, and I look forward to talking to you all again next week. Alright, take care.